2 a.m. screen, uncovering something ancient and mean. Got my smartphone scrolling through the feed, planting the seeds of a new conspiracy. Exhaling sweet clouds from my blueberry vape, looking for answers, hoping for an escape. The truth is out there, that's what they all say. The truth is out there, that's what they all say.
Michaels, host of the Average Joe podcast.
I am your host, Chip Michaels, and today we are going to be getting into some of what everybody's been talking about, and just as like a nice, refreshing breath of fresh air, which is I wouldn't use to describe this guy very often, but he decided to come through on this missing scientist discussion that everybody's been going and talking about. I mean, even the president, he had a meeting about it. And
keep it steady. We're almost there. The glyphs suggest a timeline we didn't expect. Handle it with care. This could be significant. Visibility's dropping. Scan the perimeter.
2 a.m. screen, uncovering something ancient and mean. Got my smartphone scrolling through the feed, planting the seeds of a new conspiracy. Exhaling sweet clouds from my blueberry vape, looking for answers, hoping for an escape. The truth is out there, that's what they all say. The truth is out there, that's what they all say.
Michaels, host of the Average Joe podcast. Thanks for listening. Be sure to check out my website, unclechippers.com.
all right, well, thank you for giving me a little clicksy. This is the Average Joe. I am your host, Chip Michaels, and today we are going to be getting into some of what everybody's been talking about, and just as like a nice, refreshing breath of fresh air, which is I wouldn't use to describe this guy very often, but he decided to come through on this missing scientist discussion that everybody's been going and talking about. I mean, even the president, he had a meeting about it, and I, so far, am 100% in agreement with Mr. Matt Walsh about what we have to look at with all of these different cases. It's something that I thought about from the get-go, because it was like, generally, if you're going to take this much time, like take this much care and precision in doing something of this magnitude, generally the first thing that you look at is definitely not what it seems or what you think it is. You've definitely got to take a step back and look in between the lines. And I don't think anybody has taken a second to do that. I think everybody has just heard that there's a lot of people missing, some of it's strange, and we're just looping them all together. Like, well, I tell you, the one that just keeps going, like, something is just not right about the Brown mass shooting. I only put it in, like, because it's considered, compared to other mass shootings, there's just something very different about this one. Where it was like, even the killer actually talked about how hard it was to kill. It's like the hardest part was to actually kill, is what he said inside the videos. Which I thought was I don't think they shared the entire transcript of his videos, but like, this guy after shooting up the school, which I think he ends up actually shooting like 2 people and injuring a fuck ton of people. But he kills 2 people that just are different ends of the world apart, even from him, and then takes a stroll a couple days later to go see an old classmate of his and just callously takes him out. Almost in front of his daughter, like his little baby girl. I don't think she's very, like, 4 or 5. I don't think it was over the age of 10, and she actually ran to the door first when the doorbell went off. Nunzio, I don't even, I don't want to butcher this man's name. But apparently, what he has done for his field is basically solved a 50-year-old equation that people have been arguing about for 50 years. And he came around in like 2013 and like, boom, solved it. He like threw his paper down. He was like, "Look, doop doop doop. This is the answers you have all been looking for." But he did this a while ago. Hence why he now is like the lead guy at MIT. Like he is in probably like it is like the 10th year of his like accolades after everything. So like he's really kind of settled into like past the honeymoon phase of all of his fame and recognition. Like at this point, he's probably like at the point where it's like like it's just like it's the shininess even has worn off. Like he's like you let him have his prize, and you actually probably took him out just before it all started to get ridiculously boring again. Wow. I mean, wow, it's kind of profound if you think about it. But like right now, I mean, I'm still in the middle of watching Matt Walsh's video. I mean, it is hard to watch more redundancy, and I mean, his so far has had definitely some differing points, but all of the like. Well, generally, all of the actual stories are exactly the same, though. So it's like hearing the case of each one of these for the millionth time. So it is still a little bit drab. And so I find myself just staring at Matt Walsh's lips that you poke out all those beard, they're just like so poofy. So that's what I'm focusing on instead of the stories that I've heard a million times. But the thing that I had not really dove into just yet was the Glenn, I think it is. No, that is the person with the this is she. It says she committed suicide. She's also like got a bunch of stuff saying I wouldn't do it, but when you're looking at some of her own footage, talking about some of the paranoia like thing, I mean, she's got schizophrenia face going on, and the ramblings, and it's not somebody who actually looks scared. It's that manufactured scare where you don't even realize that you're manufacturing it though, or she doesn't, like, because it's all happening inside the head. But like, she's way too certain about everything without having any proof about anything. Like anything she speculates is the truth, and it's true all the way to the umpteenth level, and not because she has evidence of it at all, but because she's purely observed it and had the thoughts about it. I think I tend to call this wizard speak, and sometimes the wizards do it internally. A lot of the times, my first observation when the wizards do it, they definitely do it out loud, and it's when people say something out loud to you, and even maybe like to you, and they just expect it to be the truth because they said it. So I call them wizards because they just believe that they're speaking this into existence, even though there's nothing, no evidence at all, and nothing leading to this ever being the case. But because they're saying it out loud, it just must be so. It doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. Like if you have a pitcher of beer in your hand, just because you say this is water does not make it so. You will get shit-faced if you drink that whole pitcher. Like most of people would. Like, oh, it's not going to be very good after about, I don't know, 5 minutes of being in that pitcher because it's going to be warm and it's just going to get worse. Just undeniable things about that pitcher and the fact that it's beer. No matter how much somebody was to deny the obvious there, inevitably their powers would prove to be not there. And so the beer will remain and just get warm, and nobody will probably drink it because it's definitely not water. And it never really will be water. I mean, unless you were to actually do scientific process to it to change molecular content, and that, heating it high enough to be able to evaporate the alcohol of it. I mean, that's one way, but it'd take forever and different. Yeah. Anyways, neither here nor there. But yeah, this particular lady, she definitely seems like she is off her rocker, which brings new light to the story. At the same time, I just don't. I mean, she's super paranoid and she thinks people are coming after her, but that doesn't. I don't understand how that turns into going after herself. You know? Like, because she is acting very irate and batshit, that's probably why people would think that it's par for the course. If you've ever seen this manic Jabberwocky in action, you'd probably go, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense. But if you start putting it together logically, like she's afraid for her safety, why would she all of a sudden jeopardize it on her own? I mean, unless she actually like got into the grips of a delusion to where like she thought her only chance of not suffering or being tortured or something like that would be to take her own life, or she truly believed in maybe something that she discovered that told her if she like ate a bullet that she'd be fine. But that was the only way for her to prove her point. And so I don't know. Devil's advocate. I mean, this is the only these. I mean, that could possibly be it, and we would absolutely never know unless she left like a hypothesis. You find it somewhere, and you're like, oh shit, no, 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 not this one. No, that one's not gonna work. Oh, you generally shouldn't, make a hypothesis that you're gonna test out where part of the outcome is that you did. Probably not the best direction for a scientist to go of any regard. I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna watch a little bit more of this, and we'll pop in and comment as we go, and then I'll probably go and in parts of it that I think are pertinent, and I'll come back and I'll add it in and show you what exactly I'm talking about. So yeah, go ahead and take a break, and we'll be back with the more missing scientist talk.
Friends and well met. Remember that God is good. The time is good. It's time for the Average Joe's Amateur.
Old myths under a new light. Always being prepared for when it's your turn to make history in just one night. And how hard it is, stay focused on the good Lord sent you for. But you better be listening before you end up in the belly of a whale when you should have gone to Nineveh. And tell the people if they don't turn from their wicked ways, then the next message from above will be the sword of fire, no longer at Michael's side.
Blast off.
The Average Joe. Bishop, Chip, Michael.
Blast off.
Enjoy the show.
Michael's host of the Average Joe podcast. Thanks for listening. Be sure to check out my website, UncleChippers.com.
Keep it steady. We're almost there. The glyphs suggest a timeline we didn't expect. Handle it with care. This could be significant. Visibility's dropping. Scan the perimeter.
Screen, uncovering some smartphone, scrolling through the feed, planting the seeds of a new conspiracy, exhaling sweet clouds from my blueberry vape, looking for answers, hoping for an escape. The truth is out there, that's what they all say. The truth is out there, that's what they all say.
Why, hello. Welcome to the Average Joe. I am your host, Chip Michaels. And have I got a show for you? As an average American Joe, I figured I'd like to give our perspective. And kind of just present this whole thing inside like a different light maybe than most people would think to look at it. Mainly because of lots of different reasons that it would most likely be different than anything else that you're listening to on the television or on the computer or on your phone. Just an average guy who has been pretty flabbergasted by what they've been presenting out there. I just told you it's very interesting. Anyways, let's get back to the show. So, good evening. Welcome. This is the show that's going to ask some hard questions, like, is your bank account being drained by a shell company? Or is it just a powerful demonic principality? The answer, as always, is, well, why not both? Look, folks, 2020 was weird, right? We had a global lockdown, we all learned how to bake sourdough, and then, out of nowhere, a mysterious metal pillar shows up in the Utah desert. It was like 9'5", 3-sided, riveted hunk of big junk. And before we could decide if it was an alien marker or a forgotten piece of IKEA furniture, it was gone, only to pop up in Romania, Turkey, and Belgium. It's like the world's most frustrating game of interdimensional hide and seek. Speaking of frustrating, we're still trying to figure out who's really in charge. Is it the shadowy global elite meeting in Davos? The one who stopped to let a shaman blow on their heads before they discuss structural adjustment for global poverty? Or is it the eggheads at CERN who have a statue of Shiva the Destroyer out front? If you're building the world's largest particle smasher, you might want a statue of, say, Bob the Builder, not the guy who danced the universe into existence only to extinguish it. So tonight, we're tracing the strings. We're going from the Utah desert to the Swiss Alps, and we're going to prove that the things you think are extraterrestrial might actually be extraterrestrial. Stick around, because we've got a theory that will make you rethink your family tree. I'd like to take a second to thank you for giving us a shot tonight. Our episode is brought to you by Community Organics Recycling in Crystal River. It is an up-and-coming community compost. You can definitely see more at www.coricr.com. That's Corey with an I. CR.com. CORICR.com. You can also get to it at UncleChippers.com. Tunnel you decide to take and get you to the same place. And there'll definitely be a link somewhere in like the description, or we'll figure out where to put it. So, anyways, back to the fun stuff. We live in a world that insists on a purely materialistic lens, one that separates the natural from the supernatural. A worldview gifted to us by Cartesian dualism. But the data, the high-tech archaeology, the UAPs, the ritualistic behavior suggests an intricate, unseen architecture of control. We are here to equip the warrior of light with the discernment necessary to see the truth. We are investing the fundamental premise that an unseen spiritual realm consistently intersects with our material reality, fighting a cosmic battle for control over the human soul. The high command of these malevolent forces is wise enough to hide, because their disbelief allows their scheme to proceed without a focused spiritual resonance. So tonight we're going to interfere. So the most compelling anomaly in our data is the rise of unidentified aerial phenomena, or the UAPs. We've been taught to call them aliens, products of the extraterrestrial hypothesis, TTH, or ETH, right? We're talking about what if these visitors are not from another star system, but another century? We're talking about the extraterrestrial model, championed by Dr. Michael P. Masters. This theory posits that the Greys, the classic large-headed, frail, five-fingered humanoids reported in abductions, are actually our distant human descendants, returned from the future to study their own evolutionary past. Think about the trends in human evolution over millions of years. Our brains keep getting bigger, which is the encephalization. Our faces and teeth, they keep shrinking, craniofacial reduction. If you extend that line, you get the Greys. Extremely large brain cases, tiny jaws, hairless bodies, and the retention of juvenile traits like large eyes, a process known as neoteny. It's profound biological similarity, and it's highly improbable that a species on another planet would have evolved to be bipedal, have five fingers, and look so much like us, unless, here's the hook, They are us. So how do these human chronauts get here? Dr. Master suggests they use space-time bubbles, technology that manipulates the metrics of space, allowing them to jump across the chronology of time to collect genetic data or historical records. Now, where do they jump to? This brings us to Skinwalker Ranch in Utah, in the Uinta Basin. For over 50 years, this 512-acre property has been a hotspot for paranormal activity. The recent high-tech investigations in 2024 and 2025 have provided some would call irrefutable evidence that this ranch is home to a persistent interdimensional portal. They've detected a ring-shaped anomaly, a dead zone for electronics. It's about 1,000 feet above a spot called the Triangle. So rockets launched into this zone exhibit impossible trajectories on GPS. Data in 2025, high-speed cameras captured objects zipping through the airspace, calculated at speeds of 16,000 miles per hour with no sonic boom. That's the instantaneous acceleration of a craft that manipulates space, not pushes through it. It suggests this ranch sits on top of a natural or artificial wormhole-like structure. And what do we find in this region? Notorious for the thinning of reality? Utah monolith. It stood in a remote canyon, cut into the bedrock, for 4 years before discovery. It was quickly followed by identical markers appearing across the globe at one key node of planetary grid. The Romanian monolith even had a sign telling people to look up to the sky. These monoliths weren't alien arrival gates. They were potential markers placed either by the chronauts or the archons, who control their transit points, guiding traffic or signaling locations where reality is pliable enough for a time jump. The best story is that the creatures we fear are not invaders, but our own great-great-grandchildren, perhaps trying to prevent a global dark age they see coming. The puppet masters who control the planet aren't just meeting Davos, they are exploiting the very mechanism of time and space to maintain control. They're not just meeting in Davos. So, what have we accomplished tonight? We've stopped looking up, started looking forward. We've connected the physical evidence, the UAP sightings, 16,000 miles per hour, the impossible trajectories at Skinwalker Ranch, the coordinated appearance of the monoliths, to a single unified theory that the aliens are our own descendants using space-time bubbles to travel along ley lines and through established portals. But the visible puppet masters, the global elite that were at Davos, engaging in shamanic rites, the corporate structures using shell companies to hide stolen assets, they are merely the marionettes. The strings lead back to principalities and archons that use the wisdom from below to foster division and disbelief. The fight is not against flesh and blood, but against these unseen architectures of control. We've exposed their concealment. We've brought the riddles into the light, with scriptural truth, empowering the church to stand firm against the 2030 spike, global crisis that the enemy seems to be preparing for. But if future humans are visiting us to prevent their own decline, what about the entities that have been here all along? Missing 411 data or 411 data shows clusters of disappearances in energy zones like Pennsylvania, geographic node where strange phenomena congregate. In the same state, we find reports of sequestered terrestrial cultures who may be hiding themselves using architectural veils, mirrored buildings that reflect the landscape, making them nearly impossible to see. We've solved the mystery of the extraterrestrial visitors, but we're left with a deeper, more disturbing question. If our future descendants are coming back to Earth, are they trying to save us from an ancient culture of hidden interdimensional beings that never left? Food for thought, right? Well, thank you guys for giving me a click-see. And, that's it for tonight. I'll be back. I think, we definitely need to do a little bit more. Our next episode's going to be go ahead and gathering up everything that we've learned about all of the missing, we can't call them all scientists, the missing scientists, and everybody that's kind of tied together in the technology / UAP disappearance fiasco that, well, the most recent abscondee, I believe, is the Major General. I believe a 2-star, General McCaslin. So, I'm sure everybody's already heard most of the details of his particular instance, along with the similarities in some of the other cases. Like, literally, just kind of like the same MO. So anyways, I've got some insights that I haven't actually heard anywhere else. So I figure might as well go ahead and share them so we can hopefully figure out what the hell is going on. I would like to solve that mystery, because it would be like the first time and it was able to like pull some shit like that off. I think with like this essentially very inefficient God's Eye network that we kind of have with each other via the interwebs, the YouTubes, and everything like that. So we'll give it a whirl. So, anyways, I am Chip Michaels. I'm gonna sign off. Go ahead, stay rooted.
Keep it steady. We're almost there. The glyphs suggest a timeline we didn't expect. Handle it with care. This could be significant. Visibility's dropping. Scan the perimeter.
Screen, uncovering something ancient and mean. Got my smartphone scrolling through the feed, planting the seeds of a new conspiracy. Exhaling sweet clouds from my blueberry vape, looking for answers, hoping for an escape. The truth is out there, that's what they all say. The truth is out there, that's what they all say.
Well, hello, boys and girls. Thank you for joining us for another episode of The American Average Joe. So today, let's talk about Africa. Yeah, I was just, I had just noticed this. It's a pretty interesting article, and it's, well, I think Africa's breaking up, guys. Africa's breaking up with itself, if we're being honest. It's an interesting, Wow. Anyways, welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Chip Michaels, and today we're going to talk about a slow motion transformation. So massive, it's actually reshaping a continent. That's right. We usually think of the ground beneath us as a permanent, right? Solid, unmoving, but a new report just released in Nature Communications tells a different story. Right now, in East Asia, East Africa, the Earth is literally necking. And no, it's not what you think. It's the final stage before a continent snaps. That's right. Scientists have been watching the Turkana Rift for a long time. This is a 500-kilometer stretch across Kenya and Ethiopia. It's part of the East African Rift System, where the African and Somali tectonic plates are drifting apart at about 4.7 millimeters a year. That roughly like the speed your fingernails grow. But here's the news researcher just found that the crust beneath Turkana has thinned way more than we realize. They're calling it necking. Imagine pulling a piece of saltwater taffy right before it breaks into two. It gets incredibly thin in the middle. That's exactly what the Earth's crust is doing in East Africa. We are witnessing the birth of a new ocean, even if it's a couple million miles away or a million years away. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. For those of us who love the history of the land, the Turkana Rift is world famous for fossils. We found over 1,200 ancient human remains there. So for decades we thought, wow, this must be the cradle of humanity. The place where it all started. But this new study offers a reality check. The same tectonic forces that are ripping the continent apart, causing the land to sink and creating deep basins, are also perfect for preservation. As the land sank, fine-grained sediments rushed in and buried remains quickly. The scientists are suggesting that Turkana might not have been the only place where humans were evolving. It just happened to be the best natural filling cabinet we found so far. It's a classic case of the geology dictating the history that we're able to see. Why it matters? Well, in the long game. So, what does this mean for the average Joe? It's a reminder that the systems that we have live on, whether it's the soil in our gardens or the plates beneath our feet. They are in a constant state of flux. This necking process is a rare glimpse into a critical tectonic phase we've never been able to study in real time before. Eventually, millions of years from now, East Africa will break away and the Indian Ocean will flood in. For now, it's a powerful lesson in how the Earth moves, hides, and eventually reveals its secrets. Well, thanks for tuning in. If you want to see the maps of this rift or the necking process I talked about, check out the visual aids in the show notes. I'm Chip Michaels, and we'll see you next time on The Average Joe. Stay rooted. All right. Hello, and welcome to The Average Joe. Tonight, what have we got tonight? Ooh, it's an amalgamation, a conglomerate over the last, I don't know, week or so. The word on these scientists has just been getting, it's like a snowball down the hill, you know? It really has been. And so I just did. I had to do a deep dive. I had to just see what the heck was going on. So it's an interesting. So I mean, I found another list. I had been operating off of the list of the 10 or 11 scientists, and then I found on Reddit another list. Now this other list, boy, it's I think it had 22 people on it, and it actually had people from a Chinese academy. So let's see, between 2022 and 2026, a statistically anomalous series of deaths and disappearances among elite scientific personnel has emerged as a primary concern for geopolitical risk analysts and national security oversight committees. This phenomenon, categorized, and that's what I call it, the kinetic brain drain, involves the systematic removal of intellectual capital from specific high-sensitive fields of research, most notably magnet hydrodynamics. And we're going to just go ahead and call that MHD for short. So, magnetohydrodynamics, or MHD. Alright, so we got quantum computing, advanced metallurgy, and nuclear fission, or fusion. Not fission, fusion. Fission we can do, fusion is harder. The pattern is not confined to a single nation. It manifests as a global hollowing out of the specialized workforce required to transition theoretical exotic physics into operational military and energy infrastructures. The investigative record suggests that these incidents are not merely a collection of isolated personal tragedies or standard industrial accidents. Instead, the timing, the specific expertise of the individuals involved, and the institutional connections between them indicate a coordinated effort either by state actors or unacknowledged transnational entities to control the golden thread of technological evolution. This thread links the ability to manipulate plasma at a quantum level to the development of propulsion systems that bypass current chemical limitations and energy systems that could decentralize global power structures. Huntsville, Alabama, historically the seat of American rocketry and home to the Redstone Arsenal, serves as the primary geographic locus for the initial phase of this attrition cycle. The death of Amy Catherine Eskridge in June of 2022 remains one of the most contentious cases in the Huntsville scientific community. Eskridge was the chairwoman and president of the Institute for Exotic Science, an organization she co-founded to challenge conventional wisdom regarding nanoparticles, or the nanoparticles of the atom and the fundamental physics of the universe. Eskridge's profile was that of the quintessential interdisciplinarian, holding degrees in chemistry and biology from the University of Alabama in Huntsville, or UAH. She mastered electrical engineering, physics, and nanotechnology. Her work at the Institute for Exotic Science focused on what Piers described as a beautiful vision for the cosmos, which translated technically into the study of propulsion systems that could potentially operate outside the constraints of the standard model. Before her death, Eskridge reportedly expressed fears of being silenced or harassed to derail her work, even suggesting that any future incident, like accident or suicide, should be treated with extreme suspicion. Her death at age 34 removed a bridge between independent exotic research and the established aerospace industry in Huntsville. The loss of personnel in Huntsville continued into 2026 with the Moffett family tragedy. Andrew Moffett, a research engineer at UAH Rotorcraft Systems Engineering and Simulation Center, RSESC, died in a private plane crash April 2026. Just this month. The crash was also claimed the life of his father, James Tony Moffett, a retired Army aviator, a digital engineer expert who supported the RSE. This incident effectively decapitated a critical lineage of specialized knowledge in rotorcraft simulation and digital engineering within the Huntsville defense ecosystem. The Los Angeles Materials Nexus. We got the Mandalloy and a superalloy bottleneck. So the kinetic brain drain transitions into a more aggressive phase in 2024 and 2025, focusing on the materials science bottleneck in Los Angeles aerospace corridor. The central figure in this cluster is Monica Jacinto Riza, an American metallurgist and director of materials processing at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, or JPL. His disappearance in June 2025 has become a focal point in federal investigations due to her role in inventing Mandalloy, a nickel-based superalloy critical for high performance in rocket engines. Mandalloy is a strategic asset. Its high temperature and pressure resistance allowed the United States to develop oxygen-rich boosters, engines that could finally match or exceed the performance of the Russian RD-180 engines. Reza's disappearance while hiking the Mount Waterman Trail in the Angeles National Forest followed a pattern of vanishings in plain sight. Her hiking companion reported that she waved, smiled, one moment, and only to have vanished entirely by the time he turned back 30 feet later. Despite massive search operations involving helicopters and specialized radar, no trace of Reza has been found. Reza's disappearance is linked to a broader cluster of fatalities involving JPL and Caltech personnel. Frank Maywald, a 61-year-old principal researcher at JPL, died on July 4th, 2024. Maywald was a specialist in building instruments for detecting chemical signatures and water on icy moons like Europa, and at the time of his death, he was overseeing the Surface Biology and Geology SPG FSWIR instrument development. His work was essential for the next generation of planetary defense and exploration sensors. Similarly, Michael David Hicks, a physicist at JPL, died in July 2023. And we've got 2026, Carl Grillmeyer, a Caltech astrophysicist and NASA Exceptional Scientific Achievement Medal winner, was shot to death on his front porch. And we have the tragic case of Nuno Loureiro and the quantum fusion disruption. One of the most significant losses to the global energy future occurred in December of 2025 with the murder of Nuno Loureiro, the director of the MIT Plasma Science and Fusion Center, PSFC. Loureiro was an expert in magnetohydrodynamics, or MHD, and the physics of plasma behavior in fusion vacuum chambers. His death occurred just as he was pioneering the use of quantum computing algorithms to simulate plasma turbulence, a breakthrough that promised to accelerate the development of clean, near-limitless fusion power. The complexity of the MHD equations Loureiro sought to solve is governed by the coupling of the fluid dynamics and Maxwell's equation. In a simplified latex form, the evolution of the magnetic field in its simulations can be expressed as an equation. And I guess I will have to put in post right here. Boom. This equation. Loureiro's work aimed to redefine the understanding of the current sheet, the formation of the plasmoid chains. The plasmoid chains, which are critical for maintaining magnetic reconnections and plasma stability. By applying quantum information science to these problems, he was moving fusion research from a 50-year horizon to something potentially achievable by 2027 or 2023 or 2030. The official narrative attributed Loureiro's death to a shooting by Claudio Manuel Nieves Valente, a former classmate. However, the investigative analysis points out that the removal of the world's leading expert on quantum plasma simulation at the precise moment fusion is racing ahead, as noted by private firms like Commonwealth Fusion Systems, represents a strategic decapitation of the public academic fusion sector. A critical link in the kinetic brain drain is the Air Force Research Laboratory and its associated special access programs. Retired Major General William Neil McCasland, a former commander at the Air Force Research Laboratory, or AFRL, and director of the group that funded Reza's Mandalay research in the early 2000s, disappeared at Albuquerque in February 2026. McCasland was a central figure in the U.S. military's most sensitive materials and propulsion projects. McCasland's disappearance occurred in the geographic triangle of Southern California, Ohio, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and New Mexico's Los Alamos. His tenure at the Air Force Research Lab placed him at the nexus of several key projects. Materials Directorate, funding and scaling of the Mandalay for reusable space vehicles. Sensors Directorate, development of advanced sensor suites like those worked on by Jacob Pritchard, who died October 2025. UAP disclosure. McCasland was frequently cited in UFO research circles as a gatekeeper of unreleased information. The time of McCasland's disappearance is particularly striking. It occurred just days after the president's order to release government files related to the unidentified aerial phenomenon, or UAPs. His absence removes a primary witness and an administrator of the legacy SAPs that allegedly manage and reverse engineered exotic technologies. Furthermore, his disappearance coincided with that of several Los Alamos National Laboratory employees, including Melissa Cassius and Anthony Chavez, both of whom were involved in sensitive nuclear and materials research. The Chinese Mirror, systematic scrubbing of the Academy of Engineering. The kinetic brain drain is not limited to the Western Hemisphere. In early 2026, a parallel attrition event occurred within the Chinese military-industrial complex. The Chinese Academy of Engineering, or CAE, the nation's highest honorary and advisory body for engineering, quietly scrubbed the profiles and biographies of its most elite members. Zhao Shikeng, one of China's foremost nuclear weapons experts, and a key figure in theoretical nuclear science under the test ban, among the first to be removed. He was followed by Wu Mengqin, a radar specialist who developed the KJ-500, an early warning aircraft, and then Wei Yin, a missile designer and former vice president of China Aerospace Science Industry Corp, or CASIC. Most recently, Yang Wei, the chief designer of the J-20 stealth fighter, also removed from the official online roster. While Beijing has attributed these removals to a widening anti-corruption campaign, the specific nature of the expertise being lost, nuclear weapons, stealth aircraft, radar, missiles, parallels the technical domains targeted in the United States. Some reports suggest that the failure of radars, AD systems, and missiles in Op-Sindoor frustrated Chinese leadership, leading to a purge of the scientists whose hardware failed in operational tests. However, the global scale of disappearances suggests a more profound, potentially transnational coordination aimed at capping the technological advancements of both superpowers simultaneously. So, we have got Wu Mengqing. His information was scrubbed July 2025. Hao Shaigang, scrubbed March 2026. Ye Yin, 2026. Yang Wei, March 2026. So the kinetic brain drain suggests two primary, though not mutually exclusive, theories for the systematic removal of scientific talent. First, the breakaway consolidation theory posits that the world is witnessing the final stages of a strategic consolidation of humanity's most advanced technical assets by a non-state or shadow state entity. Under this framework, individuals like Riza Materials, Lorero Fusion, and McCaslin SAPs are not being killed or lost, but rather recruited or consolidated into an unacknowledged infrastructure that operates outside the visibility of mainstream governments. This theory explains why devices like cell phones and wearables are often found at the scenes of the disappearances. The individuals are entering a zero-footprint environment where digital tracking is impossible. The goal of breakaway consolidation would be to achieve a decisive technological leap in MHD, propulsion, and quantum-controlled energy, effectively creating a civilization that is no longer dependent on the planetary resources base or traditional geopolitical structure. The removal of these scientists from public institutions ensures that no other nation can replicate these breakthroughs. The tech cap theory. This offers a more cynical view. Systematic suppression of any technology that threatens the current global socio-economic order. Nuclear fusion would collapse the oil and gas markets. Exotic propulsion, Eskridge Riza, would render the multi-trillion-dollar shipping and defense infrastructure obsolete. Under tech cap, the kinetic brain drain is a regulatory mechanism when a scientist or engineer gets too close to a viable, scalable civilization and/or technology. They are removed from the board. This theory is supported by the warnings left by Amy Eskridge and the strange suicides reported in the UFO research community, such as those involving David Wilcox, biographer, Free, who was allegedly working on anti-gravity tech before his death in April 2026. The tech cap ensures that disequilibrium between future challenges and institutional responses is avoided by simply preventing the future from arriving. They want you to think it's a coincidence. They want you to look at the news and see hiking accidents and jealous classmates, like corruption purges. But we're not playing a game of chance anymore. We're looking at the systematic deletion of the human race's future. Welcome to the Red Line Protocol. Look at the data. Between June 2022 and April 2026, the people who were going to give us the stars were wiped off the board. We start in Huntsville. Amy Eskeridge, brilliant, gen-level IQ. She co-founds the Institute for Exotic Science. She starts asking the wrong questions about nanoparticle propulsion. She tells her friends, if I die, it wasn't an accident. And then she's gone. And what happens to her research? Does it get published? No. It gets buried while her friends name a satellite after her as a consolation prize. Then we go to Los Angeles. We got Monica Jinko-Riza. She's the director of materials at JPL. She co-invents Mandalloy. This isn't just metal, folks. This is the super alloy that makes our rockets better than the Russians. She waves to a friend on a trail, and 30 feet, she's erased from existence. No body, no DNA, nothing. And she worked for Major General Neil McCaisland at the Air Force Research Lab. The same McCaisland who disappears in Albuquerque right as the president is about to dump the UFO files, and one day before the invasion in Iran. Are you seeing it yet? The golden thread. Magnetohydrodynamics, fusion, superalloys, quantum computing. It's the same stack. Nuno Loureiro at MIT was the one who was going to tie it all together with quantum algorithms for fusion. He's the one who was going to give us clean energy for the next 10,000 years. And he gets shot in his foyer. At the same time, China is scrubbing their J-20 designers and nuclear geniuses. It's tech crap. Tech cap. They are capping our civilization. They don't want us to have the Doge 1 moon payload or the VSWIR sensors or the fusion reactors, because if we have that, we don't need the oil. We don't need the borders. We don't need them. Or this is the scary part. Maybe they aren't killing them. Maybe they're moving them. Maybe the breakaway consolidation is they're taking the biological source code of our species and moving it into the SAPs where you will never see it again. Julia Hicks said her dad's death was just medical. The families are scared. The institutions are silent. But the obituaries don't lie. Frank Maywald, Michael Hicks, Andrew Moffat, Jacob Pritchard, all of them tied to the same sensor suites, the same materials, the same secrets. Stay awake. The kinetic brain drain is the red line, and we just crossed it. The kinetic brain drain represents a fundamental threat to the continuity of public sector scientific advancement. The mapping of connections between the Air Force Research Lab funding, MIT theoretical research, and Huntsville exotic science community reveals a vulnerable ecosystem where the loss of a single individual, such as Monica Rizzo or Nuno Loureiro, can stall entire technological trajectories. The parallel purges in China further suggest that the brain drain may be a global phenomenon, possibly driven by the realization that certain technologies are reaching a singularity point that threatens existing power structures. Whether these individuals are being eliminated to preserve the status quo, the tech cap, or consolidated to form a shadow technological elite breakaway, the result for the public scientific community is the same. A profound loss of talent required to solve the most pressing challenges of the 21st century. Analysts must now treat their personal safety and digital security of high-level researchers in MHD and quantum computing as a primary national security objective to prevent the total hollowing out of the civilian scientific base. All right. Now you know. Knowing is half the battle. G.I. Joe! So I will go ahead and leave you with that. This is Average American Joe. Stay rooted.